I will say the singles block is jam-packed. We have a lot of whompers here. And I want to get into the first one. First is I Hate You by SZA. And there's a little bit of a story behind this track. This was released on SoundCloud, sort of anonymously, about a couple months ago in August. And this sort of fits with an experiments a lot of artists are doing where not just motivated by lockdown, but they're kind of trying to experiment with different ways of putting out their music, of expressing themselves in their art form. And I think SZA's even doing that by, or at least tried to do that by releasing music without having her name attached to it to sort of just see how that went. There's one of 3 songs along with Joni and Nightbird. Those two haven't seen releases, but I Hate You is the first proper release that's now in streaming services. And so we got to listen to
that. Yeah. And it's good.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it has like a sort of, I'm trying to kind of think of like, would it fit in SoundCloud if I like didn't know it was SZA? And I guess it's kind of like synthy and a little bit bedroom pop inspired, but it still feels like very, very highly produced. Not in a good way, not in a bad way, right?
No, it's just different. It's different compared to a lot of other SZA tracks in a way that it's
that's
produced.
For sure.
Like that's what I like about it, because Mrs. has a pretty distinctive sound and stuff, and we generally like her on that. So it's nice to hear her change it up a little bit with it, and it definitely sounds like a mixture of something that's kind of experimental in a way. That's something that you would find on SoundCloud, and something that you would hear a bedroom pop artist might make if they try to dabble into neo pop and all that. But I enjoyed it overall.
Yeah, it was definitely a great track. Next we have Mercedes by Brent Faiyaz. I will say my first complaint out of the way. Every artist who like raps or like makes a lyric with the song Mercedes has to rhyme it with ladies. It's really like, I've heard it so many times.
I was gonna say the same damn thing. I'm like, every time I hear Mercedes, I go, Mercedes ladies, every time. Like, please stop.
Yeah. There's English is not necessarily a beautiful language, but I think it's a beautiful language, and there's a lot you can do with it. So keep trying. But actually, that's pretty much the only thing I have to complain about the track. It's a really solid, like, semi-experimental, like, backdrop in the thing, but I think it's kind of, progressive R&B neo-pop kind of sound. But Brent Faiyaz has just been like a great voice that has been in the backdrop of a lot of songs throughout the year. And so he's gonna be one of my like artists to watch continually throughout.
Yeah, I mean, he was on Baby Keem's record, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty, like, he's been in a lot of things that I've heard, and yeah, definitely one to watch in the future.
Yeah.
Just don't bar on people making songs about with German automakers as their titles.
I don't know, I can see some Audis. I haven't gotten a lot of Porsches, but then we're gonna have the whole.
Can we go Volkswagen or what?
We're gonna have the whole Porsche versus Porsche conversation in America again, and why do that? How about we go to a little bit more indie? We have "Good at Letting Go" by Smmr Cmp.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say this is a fun track covering one of my favorite sort of concepts in a song, which is telling yourself you're getting over a relationship when you're very clearly not.
The old I can do this while you're like tearing up stuff on the sides.
Yeah. But I mean, one of my favorite songs that we reviewed on the podcast that follows that kind of idea is "Compensating" by Amine. And I like that because it's sort of like a playful idea of, no, I'm doing totally all right, but actually like I'm sort of like dealing with this baggage in the background as well. I think it's a really thoughtful song that was really well done by Smmr Cmp. They're this duo out of LA. Really just like synthy kind of fun sounds. I'd say if you like Plastic Beach era Gorillaz or that kind of thing, you'll also very much like this instrumental of the track as well. It just sounds kind of like airy, beachy.
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
What'd you think?
I like it. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, indie has been, the past couple indie singles that we've done, I've really enjoyed, and this is another one that I thought is fantastic. And Smmr Cmp I've heard for a while, and I've liked their music. So
yeah.
Yes, I've heard of their stuff a couple of times.
Yeah, Smmr Cmp. We did a release from Norman Lake the last week. We're just kind of finding some local LA indie releases to kind of like promote and do. I think it's a fun thing. We'll continue to do that with other genres, with other, locations next year, especially. We're just, kind of getting started, as they say.
Yes.
Next, we're indulging me, of course.
Deja Vu. Yeah, Oliver Heldens, one of Dan's favorite EDM artists. Like, here we go. But I actually really like Deja Vu. I think it's a solid track. It reminded me a lot of ZHU, ironically, because we have ZHU coming up next. But
yeah, more on that very shortly. But while we're on Deja Vu, Oliver Heldens has pretty much solidified his sort of like future house sound and as applied to songs. Nevertheless, and I've been listening to Oliver Heldens' music since 2014, and it goes back even a couple years earlier than that. He still manages ways to keep it fresh, to find ways to keep it like modern and unique with that sound, and pairing vocalists on these tracks that are just really phenomenal. They really kind of take it next level, and these are really always complete tracks. I love when Oliver Heldens produces things, because sometimes we have gone over on about complaints about DJs in electronic music, but sometimes the electronic mix outdoes the vocalist or vice versa, and it just all doesn't work out. Never a problem with Oliver Heldens. He's released a steady amount of like singles throughout the year because, like we said, there's a bunch of DJs who are busy and doing great stuff, but they don't show up in albums. So it's a little weird to do for this podcast. We're going to work on this more in 2022. Stay tuned.
Yes. And last one, we have M Into It, which is Paul Oakenfold, ZHU, and Velvet Cash. And I really like this track.
I did a Bam Eyes. I was very surprised because, first of all, ZHU, friend of the show, we love talking about ZHU.
This is friend of the show, ZHU.
Yeah, Paul Oakenfold is like, we're going to Dan playing the Orange Box on PlayStation 3, the most inferior version of the Orange Box, listening to Pandora, listening to like electronic music mixes, and like Paul Oakenfold was one of like those early artists, people that were on that. And so to see Paul Oakenfold, who is just definitely a how do I put, he's very seasoned, let's say. I'm trying to put it in a respectful way. He's
made music for a long time,
several decades. And so to see like that sort of like seasoned DJing status with someone like ZHU combined with Velvet Cash as well, I think it was a really wonderful mix. It turned out really well. And honestly, I think it turned out better than some of ZHU's remixes with some newer artists recently. I'm not gonna like point fingers here or there, but there have been some ZHU remixes, some ZHU tracks collaborations I've heard recently that have been kind of, a little
okay, but a little lackluster. But this is literally, I'm into it.
Very much. And Real Heads will play the extended mix.
Always. If it's, I'm sad it's only 4.5 minutes. If I say extended mix, I want like 15 minutes.
Yeah, 6 minimum. 6 minute minimum.
6 minimum. Exactly. Extended mix, like we know regulation extended mix size of like 6 minutes. So
I have a feeling that 2022, whether the music industry does this or not, we're just going to be going very into electronic music. We're just like chomping at the bit here after the past couple episodes.
I'm ready. I've been getting some of my house stuff for future episode ideas and stuff. So, we're going to go into it.
I also just went to a house show this past weekend and got a lot of fun out of that. But
I miss doing those.
Well, it's been a while. Soon. Anyways, do some pluggeroonies. Thank you for checking out the singles. You can send us some single suggestions by going to emailing us at audioface@syndicate23.co. We love getting your suggestions for music, and we will list them on the show and we will review them. Singles rule still applies, but we really want to hear from smaller artists out there who just want to get some exposure for their work or opinions on their work. Please send it our way. Speaking of Syndicate 23, that is the membership platform kind of content thing behind Audioface and the other shows that I'm working on, including Power Report, Dan from the Internet. And so you can contribute to all that we're doing for a small amount of money per month, and then you can get a bunch of bonus content that Audioface will be doing more in 2022, but there's already bonus content for Power Report up right now, and there's going to be community features, other award stuff. Should be really great. Next, of course, Audioface Awards. Sean alluded to that earlier in the podcast, and that is going to come out, usually a little before Christmas, sometimes a little bit after, but it'll be before the year ends, that's for sure. After that episode comes out, we're going to take a break as we usually do, and then barring any unforeseen terrible deaths from musical artists like we did with the MF Doom episode last year, we'll return for Audioface in, late January. The 2021 AF playlist, we are really rounding that out because that is all the best music of 2021. Just go, everyone's going to be doing year in review things. Just listen to the year in music with that playlist. Listen, it's in the podcast description of all the videos. It's in the in the podcast description of all the podcasts, of course, in the video description of all the videos. You know what it is. And then follow Audioface on Twitter at AudiofacePod on Twitter and Instagram. And thank you, Peter, for mastering all these episodes. Peter works for Dead Music Productions at Dead Music 666.